You're listening to Our Space with Matt Batiste.
I feel like most artists hate being called mid or sort of in between. You kind of want people to love you or hate you. And I don't think that that's a bad thing either. I feel like a lot of people with today's guest either love or hate him. I'm joined by TX2. First off, thanks for joining me today, man.
Yo, thanks for having me here, man. I definitely second the comment you just made right there. Love it.
You either like who wants to be known as mid or just meh, right? You know,
Yep.
You know that you're making an impact when people love you and people hate you. You can't always control the way that people react, but at least you know that you're doing something right if people are loving and hating you, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I remember there was a Marilyn Manson, I think, interview a long time ago, and everything you could, take out all the you could think about with Marilyn Manson, but he said a really powerful quote or something about like, and I guess it's not just him. That was just the first thing that came to mind, but like, you're not making art unless 50% of people hate it and 50% of people love it, you know?
Well, that's just it. And if people are just meh on your music, you're doing something wrong because you want people to feel something, right? At the end of the
Right.
day, isn't that the whole point of music and art?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It's art. It's not supposed to be understood by everybody. And yeah, I mean, no one cares about mid music. No one cares about good music. People want something that they feel they either despise or they love, right?
I think that's also a good a reason why bands like Nickelback or Creed have sort of remained relevant for so long. They've had both the people that love them and the people that hate them. I think for the longest time, we saw bands like Nickelback sell out stadiums, but you never saw anybody ever admit that they loved Nickelback, but they were selling out big stadiums, right?
I know, dude. And it's, I mean, we did a US tour and we had played almost every show sold out. It was crazy. And we were headlining when we did our tour in October or something. So it's a tale as old as time. Whenever you start just cracking into the mainstream or on your rise up, everyone will hate you. It's like, but it's the whole they gotta hate you before they love you thing. You know, that's a quote that I don't know where that one comes from, but have you heard that quote before?
No,
Okay,
I'll be completely honest.
Yeah, I've heard it a bunch, and I remember when I was in the midst of all this hate, and I was getting a lot of there's like a trend of people just being like no to like coming to my concert. I was like, I that quote was like pretty healing to me. And I think it's true for just about every rock band that is alternative and had to come up. Like even, dude, like even heavy metal bands were hated before they were like loved. And you see that all the time. And another example is I think Bring Me the Horizon was like a band that everybody hated in the metalcore scene, like when they were on their come up. And then even like Sempiternal apparently was like hated or something originally. And then like That's the Spirit came out. Everybody was like, these guys are pop or whatever. And then now everyone's coming around, you know? It keeps happening over and over again.
There's a moment where I think things switch with a band where they go from, but like, I feel like there's also waves, you know, sometimes a band will be hated, then loved, then hated again. It's just, it's art, you know?
Right.
Would you say that you guys are like the Nickelback of the emo and pop punk world?
I don't know. I guess, it'd be cool if we were. I would like that, but I don't know if we are. I mean, how do you, I think we're our own thing. I guess it depends on what you define as the Nickelback. If we're talking about like a hated on the an upcoming band that is hated or having like a trend like this, then yes. But I think, I loved Nickelback growing up, and I think some of my music, last year, I was like really listening to Nickelback, and it kind of like seeped into the music a little bit. But I don't think I don't think what we're doing now is as comparable, if that makes sense.
The social media side of things, there's just a lot of comments on of negativity on the social media side of thing. Is that almost like a marketing tactic of, you know, getting your music out there? Is it intentional sometimes, or is it just sort of like, I'm going to be my authentic self and this is how people are going to perceive me either way?
Combination of both. For starters, about like wait, what am I allowed to talk about on this pod? Like, is there like
You're allowed to
like,
talk about whatever you want to talk about.
so I had a pretty crazy like shroom trip a few years ago where when I started grinding TikTok and understanding TX2 for what it was, where I was like, I'm not the best looking person in the world, and I'm not the most talented person in the world. So for that reason, I need to do something. And I had like this ego death where I was like, I have to give people a reason to care about me. And so I started like making content that I knew would like basically trigger emotions within people. Well, not it's not like I'd like lie about myself and like about things that have happened in my life, but I would definitely like just like it's like a puzzle. I'd like figure out like what words to use in combination to like either really trigger people. Like, and honestly, the easiest people to trigger are metalheads. So like sometimes I'd be like, so like when I say like, so here's an example of something that's not fully true. When I say, is this this is the hardest rock song ever? Like, no, it's not. Like, but like, I know that's going to piss all these people off. Also, even if I thought it was, why does it matter? It's just an opinion, right? Everyone has everyone has an opinion. I'm just going to throw something out there I know would trigger people. But then sometimes, for example, when we released Randy McNally, I was like, that was a song where like the lyrics were "There's no love like Christian hate." We put like the governor of Tennessee's name in the like several governors' names in the song. And there's no marketing behind that. That was just me being like, I'm fucking pissed at what is happening right now in this country. And what better way to use my platform than to write a song about it and then promote it. And then that ended up going viral in itself, which just worked from being authentic and just talking about what I felt. And the same thing with another interesting song was "I Would Hate Me Too." A lot of people think I wrote that song because I was like thinking, and I'm so surprised that it went viral the way it did. But, and I'm also not surprised at the same time. I wrote the song because I was like, nobody gives a fuck about artists' mental health and about my mental health. And honestly, the worse it is, the better this, like the song. So what if I make the most AC/DC, like classic rock and roll song where the lyrics are really dark? And I basically just take as many shits on myself as I can, right? Like I grew up super insecure about my height. So I was like, I'm a 5'4", and then like, I definitely have had, like just I don't know. I went through a phase where I was like I couldn't form connections with other people, so it was like I'm a fuck boy, man whore. I have like problems with relationships, and I kind of hinted at that at the start of our conversation before this podcast started about Calgary. But you know what I'm saying? It's like and even there, it's just authentic to who I was. I released a song, and the internet was really mad that I said I was a 5'4" man whore. That it blows my mind how upset people are that I said that.
I feel like it's funny to me, and hearing you say this is why I wanted to have this conversation, because I can see the genuineness in there, and I can also see the comedy. Like, I find it funny seeing you say this is the hardest thing, knowing that it's not.
No,
because you know that it's going to upset people and trigger those emotions, and it's like I guess a well-grounded person would know that you don't believe it or know that it's not, but for some reason they think that you actually believe it. And I don't know, I find the humor in that. And that's why I think I wanted to ask you about that, because I'm like, I watch your videos and I see you doing these things and I'm like, this is funny because I know he's doing it to troll people and it's working.
And it works. And it worked. Dude, Cam's my guitarist. We laughed so hard at the response videos. Like every 2 weeks now, there's like some YouTuber, or it's usually like some like probably like a like kid who's like trying to be like a metal person, and they're like, yo, let's talk about the dirtiest, cringiest shit bag of a musician that is TX2. And like, dude, someone said something like that. What they like started their YouTube video off like, let's talk about the filthiest pile of dog shit that is the like ruining emo culture that is TX2. Like Cam and I laugh our asses off at that. And honestly, sometimes the insults are really creative and funny. Like yesterday we posted like a photo because we were just tired. We're like trying not to die right now. And then someone reposted the photo that was like try less and die, and or something like that. And I was laughing. Like, how do you not laugh at that? That's hilarious.
It's just, people take themselves way too seriously. And I understand taking music seriously because, we have such a strong emotional connection to it. But it's kind of funny that we take it so seriously to the point where you can't take a joke about things.
Dude, I know, bro. I'm a full believer and I love comedy and comedians. And the death of humor is the moment you can't make jokes about things. So Cam and I are always like making jokes that are like that are like pushing lines, that are like just because that's funny in my head. And honestly, even if that's not funny to anybody else, it's funny to me. So I don't care. I do this for me, you know?
I think the same can go for making music. Do you say that would be the same thing for you in terms of like, I make music for myself and that's really
Definitely.
it?
Yeah. I'm not, I don't make music for anybody else. I mean, I do, I guess the type of person that I make music for. So I mean, I make two different types of songs. Sometimes I make a song because it's really fun. And like, I would Hate Me Too as a message, but it was also a fun song. Right. But that was actually not one of the two things. That was like a weird combination of fun, like sad and like all sorts of different things. But like sometimes, I mean, I guess it's not one of two things. Sorry, I'm very contradicting to myself sometimes. I'm like, I'm okay with being wrong, so I'm always like, wait, actually no. But here's what I do know. Sometimes I make songs for fun. Sometimes I make songs because it's like therapy for me, because I'm like feeling something and I needed to write a song. Like Burn, for example, was like therapy for me. I needed to write that song about like a relationship with my family, and I needed that song for me. And a lot of people I know also needed that song. For example, okay, yeah, I guess this is not giving away anyone's personal information. One time we played the show, and a little girl came to the show, and she was a super big fan. She made her dad like drive a far distance for the show. And the girl's dad got super drunk, got super creepy with a band member of ours, started like touching people and got kicked out of the venue and sent home. And we were like, what do we do? There's like a girl here who has no parents. And I was like, what a shitbag dad. And it reminded me of something I grew up with. And I was like, that was really the tipping point where I was like, I want to write a song for those people that like need to know that family's not blood. Right. So that's why I wrote Burn. And of course that song had I don't know if you saw any of like the hate and all this stuff, like where the internet got upset that it was like not metal or whatever. But, it was a weird combination of everyone hated it and it blew up. And then it was just a song that I was also just venting and talking about something I felt like. And okay, so sorry, I went on a tangent, but the real purpose of this is I wrote that song for me and for that girl, and for anybody who needs a song like that. And for those who can't relate and those people who hate, I didn't write the song for them. It's not supposed to be a cool song that everybody likes. The song was basically for me and that person, and for anybody who needs it.
And see, here's the thing. I think that's the one thing that I think I mostly realized, even just sort of prepping for this interview. And I sort of did a bit of a deeper dive into the comments. And, have you ever looked up your name on Reddit? Because there's a lot that comes up.
Oh, yeah, all the time. I laugh. Dude, I love those. I love those subreddits. Like the ones that are like, he's the biggest poser, worst musician, all the things. Yeah.
The thing is, though, is I would say, I think before really doing a deep dive, I would say before that, all of your comments are all hate, because I think that the negativity sort of in any scenario is always a lot louder than the positivity. But when you really actually dive deeper into it, you get a lot of really positive comments, and not just on your page, but even within those subreddits. Now, what some people probably want to know is how many Reddit accounts do you have defending yourself? That's a joke, but because there's been a bunch of those messages, but a lot of those positive messages have always been, how much you can relate and relate to those kids. And there's a lot of those messages within your music that I think a lot of people don't see, because I think a lot of people don't get past the social media videos, and I think that's the big thing with your music is you do have a very positive message for a lot of those kids that felt like they were outcasts growing up. And I think that was the biggest thing that I've noticed. So I'm kind of curious if there is an overall main message that you try to convey with your music.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just that. It's like, even right now I'm being outcast by the internet, which I think in its own way really works for the people who believe in TX2 and understand TX2. Like it's for the people who understand what the lyrics mean and can relate, and nobody else, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I talk about being bullied. I was bullied like pretty fucking heavily in high school. And then now it's kind of happening again on the internet. And I mean, it happened even in my home life at one point. Basically, the point being, like, I've just dealt with a lot of, everyone has dealt with abuse, but for the people who have been abused and who feel outcasted and feel like they're alone, like, that's how I feel sometimes with the internet and how much I'm hated too. And I think that's why it resonates really hard with the people who also feel that. And that is who I make my music for. That is who I stand for. And it's not like, I feel like I see sometimes artists and people who are like, my music is for the outcasts, right? And then it's like I am literally being outcast by the internet right now. So what better group of people to relate than people who also are dealing with the same thing as me? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And do you ever feel like with age, it kind of gets a little bit easier to sort of deal with these things?
It depends on the day. I have depression, and sometimes it really hits me. And dude, it's crazy. I'll see 100 love comments, and that one hate comment just stands out sometimes because I'm like, I don't, and I honestly shouldn't be, but it's just some days that's how I am. Today, you caught me on a day where I'm like, I don't care about anything. Let them say what they want. Let's blow up. You know what I'm saying? But I'm human. I think anybody who tells you that it doesn't affect them at all is not being fully real.
No, they're lying.
Yeah, right. I'm a human. And sometimes I think about how dark and cruel this world is when I think of, which is honestly why I make emo music and why I really find solace in it, because there's been some terrible things that have happened to both my guitarist and I, and then we think about how we talk about it in a song and the whole world just shits on us for talking about it. And then that's just how that's the cycle of abuse artists who are blowing up usually receive, is you get hated for talking about your trauma. And so it just becomes this thing where this world is dark. And I'm not even talking about, sorry, this could become a whole nihilistic conversation, which I
know I'm trying to steer it into more of the positive side of things. It's very easy to fall into that.
Oopsies, Evan fell into nihilism again. But okay, all right, I'll jump out. It gets easier.
I want you to be your authentic self throughout this entire thing. I don't really want to steer. I'm trying to steer towards the positive things as much as I can. But I mean, dude, if you want to talk about the negative things or the things that, have happened, I also want you to feel like you're in a safe space where you can talk about these experiences and talk about these things, because I mean, they are important to us as human beings, and that's what we connect on, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, honestly, today is one of the days I'm feeling good. So it has gotten better, but I'm just saying, for anyone, I guess, especially for maybe someone who's listening to this who also feels like they've been bullied, it's so valid to be hurt and to deal with that. And every human deals with that. But at the end of the day, I know that if I go through most of the people hating, they're usually in local bands. You can see they're you know what I'm saying? People who are just really mad that I'm at a point that they wish they were at, which, that's life. It's sad, man. It's sad that people don't want others to win. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the Nickelback. That's the Green Day, My Chemical. Do you know if you liked My Chem growing up, you know that it wasn't cool to like My Chem, right? 21 Pilots, It was not cool to like them. And it's still they're getting hated again for some Green Day. You know what I'm saying? Now Green Day's loved, but for the longest time, they were the most hated band.
I remember being in elementary school and getting made fun of for listening to Green Day. And then they dropped American Idiot, and all the kids that loved, or that bugged me for listening to Green Day, then all of a sudden loved Green Day after American Idiot came out. So that's why I've had this conversation with people before. American Idiot's where I kind of fell off of Green Day, because I was like, well, it's not cool for me anymore, because all the kids that were picking on me now like this thing that they were picking on me for. So I'm like, well, that was my cutoff mark with Green Day. So it was and then after that, I didn't listen to much of them from that point on. Right. And it's it's crazy how people and things can sort of affect the way that you listen to music and the way that music is affected in that sense.
Totally. Right now, it is cool to hate on TX2, right? And at one point, it was cool to hate on Green Day. And the moment that Green Day became cool, right now, then that's interesting that it flipped you from being a fan of Green Day. I wonder if that's going to happen with TX2. I don't know. Who knows? But it's just a weird, dude, it's a weird cycle. I don't understand why people can't just be like, yo, this is art, period. Just let people, dude, no one song is better than another. You cannot compare a crazy metalcore song with 5 breakdowns and like 7 different sections that are all different to a pop song. Both have equal weight. It is equally hard to write either song. It's just art. It's music, you know. Anybody who's like trying to compare songs to me just seems unintelligent. Where I'm like, dude, it's art. You know what I'm saying? Let people do what they want. Just mind
I've
your
had
own
this
business.
conversation about emo music and pop punk sort of, you know, colliding worlds where people will be like, that's pop punk, it's not emo, or that's emo, not pop punk. But like, at what point do you just say, all right, screw the box, it is what it
Why does
is,
it matter?
right? Like,
you know what I'm saying? Why are we so honestly, okay, I always think about how people are animals. It is so animalistic to be like, I need to categorize. Monkey think that this, not that. Like, why does it matter? Who gives a fuck? Like, do you have anything better to do with your day than to categorize things? You know what I'm saying? I don't. I personally have, I'd rather be focusing on taking over the world than focusing on that is this and this is that, you know?
it just also feels ridiculous to me that people try to put things and people and bands into a box when it just is what it is, right? Like to be
Right.
like, oh, like Knock Loose is pop now because they got popular after pop culture.
Who cares?
It's like they're not a
Who
hardcore
cares?
band anymore. Like,
What also, like, is that what you spend your time doing? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, who cares? But I
Yeah.
guess that my mindset is I'm gonna use those people to blow up. Like if people are gonna be so like worried about categories, and honestly, it seems like the majority of like humans, people are like worried about categorizing things. If I'm trying to make it to the top, I might as well just use that to my advantage, you know, and be like, all right, Monkey needs to categorize things. Now I need to piss Monkey off so that I get bigger because I know the weakness. You know what I'm saying?
drop a country song and it's just heavy metal.
Dude, can you imagine if I did though? Like, think about what would happen.
You're like, hey, I'm coming out with a country song. Is this the most country song you've ever heard? Country breakdowns the entire time, like introduce country and metal.
Dude, country breakdowns would go nuts. Why don't country songs have breakdowns? Like, imagine if you know, they kind of do actually. I know usually the bridge is where they like, yeah. You know, I'm thinking of Chicken Fried. You know that song?
Yeah.
You know, like a chicken. I love how like the breakdown of that song, it just goes like, this one's for those who died. Salute the stars. And it's like, bro, when did this song? This is about Chicken Fried. Where did that come from? But that's a breakdown. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the part where everybody takes off their hats and they feel the song.
True. We need to get something a little bit. We need to find a way to get them throwing fists in the pit.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Imagine a bunch of rednecks. Yeah.
That'd be crazy. That would be crazy.
That would be absolutely wild. I do want to know, you know, talking about the reactions that people have to your music, trying to steer the ship in more of a positive direction. What is the most positive interaction that you've had with a fan?
Okay, so in Denver, one of the coolest conversations that I'll probably die with this memory. There was a shooting at an LGBTQ plus club in I think it was I should really remember this. Forgive my memory. I think it was like Boulder at the time, or Denver. I don't remember, but I think it was the Club Q. And there was a very nice person who was working the door, and who got shot several times and had like bullet marks in them, who came to our show in Denver just talk about how proud they were that I was speaking up about human rights issues at a time where many people weren't. The person really meant every word they said. And having someone who survived being like literally shot from a hate crime tell me that what I was doing was healing them and several other survivors, like the survivors would apparently meet and were all touched by the music, made me realize that like this is really like it's a movement. It's there's a difference that I'm making in people's lives by being here and making music like this, and that like made everything make sense. And I will never forget that conversation I had with that person.
Yeah, and those are very powerful conversations to have. You know, is that sort of what makes you want to continue going no matter what as well? Is that a part of it? Is that a big part of it?
Yeah, quite frankly, that's my only reason for being alive right now is I feel like yeah, which is really heavy, but like at the same time, it's freeing is that I feel like I have an opportunity to change lives. And like when I grew up, I really didn't have any role models besides like artists I looked up to. So I just want to be that for somebody else. And I think that the fact that I have the chance to do that and if, I have a platform, I can do cool things with it. I want to. And I like it gives me a purpose in life because like a lot of times I strike with I suffer with like just feeling like there's no point in anything in life. 'Cause I just personally don't believe in anything. I think we're just animals and we're just flying through space and there's a lot of other animals on rocks. And I'm like, so what's the purpose of anything? And then I'm like, okay, well then I guess, the purpose is what you make of life. So then why not, if I feel like sometimes I feel like there's no purpose in me. So why not make purpose by helping others? And that's why I want to do this,
And are there any artists that you've maybe looked up to that have really helped you when you were a kid and going through all of that you've sort of interacted with now that your career has been growing and on the come up, that you've had a positive interaction with those artists?
The specific artists that I grew up listening to were like in my head were like my voice of my childhood were Billy Joe Armstrong, who I haven't met yet and I'd love to. Gerard Way, same thing. Chester Bennington, which unfortunately I'll never get the chance to, but that I would have loved to. Ollie Sykes and I did listen to Machine Gun Kelly for a while of my life, and I actually did get to meet him. And that was a cool meeting. And
how was that interaction?
He probably would not remember it because it was at a bar, but he basically was not having a good time. I went up to him and I was like, I just wanted to meet him. He was like Colson or MGK. He was like Colson. And I was like, dude, huge fan. And I wish I said more because I was like, he actually did change a lot of things in my life. And he's like, I'm not having a good time. I'm not ready to talk right now. I was like, that's fair. So I walked away and I think he felt bad because I was a little sad. I was like, fuck, I blew it. He grabbed my shoulder. He turned me around. He's like, you musician? It's like, yeah. He's like, I'm sorry, man. It's been a really rough night. But like, and then he just like took time out of his day to talk to me and listen to me. And just because I think, and that was my sign that he felt bad in his head for one moment. And and he wanted to make my day and he didn't have to, but he took the time to make me feel better. And that showed a lot of humanism and that made me feel really good. And then that made me realize whenever I'm meeting fans, I have the chance to make other people's days. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I want to do.
It also sounds that you respected his boundaries and then he realized that and appreciated that and was like, oh, okay, because you weren't just that incessant fan of,
right.
Going up to him and being like, well, can I just have 1 minute with you or a picture or whatever, right? He was like, I'm not having it right now. Step away. And he was like, oh, okay, like this person's a respectful person. I can reason with them as a human and go and make their day. And it's cool that he made that impact on you as well, where you've had those interactions where to sort of do the same thing with fans as well, because I feel like that's important and that gets lost in the music world with all of that.
Yeah, dude, we're all just people, man.
And on that topic, I do want to get to know you more as a human being on this podcast. I think I was planning on starting the show off with this, but our conversation just kind of went going. So I wanted to ask you a few, human non-music questions. If you're hosting a party, you're only allowed 3 guests, dead or alive. Who are you inviting?
Oh, God. Billy Joe Armstrong, Gerard Way, because I just want to meet these people.
we just went through this.
Yeah. And, Ollie Sykes, I guess, all these 3. I would love to chat with.
If you could time travel to any point in time in history, where would you go and why?
Born in 85. I would have been born like 15 years earlier so that I could have a childhood in the 90s and then the early 2000s be in a band rather than being in a band in the 2000s. I was in bands in the 2010s, which is a rough time for rock. So I would have rather been in the early 2000s bands and then not had to do that rap career thing that I did for a bit. And then get to enjoy now not being on the come up in the social media age. Cause like, as much as you see me do social media things, like, it's not like I want to be doing that. I just have to, I
feel like that's one thing a lot of people don't realize too, for a lot of musicians, is they have to be on social media doing that stuff for the most part, right?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, you don't have to. It depends on what type of musician you are. I came into this game without knowing anybody in the industry and telling myself I would make it no matter what. So the only option I had was that. But some people I've met didn't have to do that. And some people just, you know what I'm saying? If you know the right person, you have the right team behind you, you have the right, whatever it might take, like maybe it's a different game for you. There's a lot of
That's
artists
true.
right now who don't need social media, you know?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of artists, don't realize the powerful free marketing tool that they have in their pocket with social media.
Definitely.
So yeah, that'd be cool. I guess growing up in the MySpace and Warped Tour era as like an artist, right? Because like I was a kid in that era, but being an artist would be a fun time to be going through all of that and not having to make videos and whatnot. But just sort of growing up and being around a lot of those impactful bands that we grew up with would be cool. If you could only eat one meal, but you had to prepare it and cook it for yourself each and every single time, what would it be?
I make orange chicken every other night. So I currently already have orange chicken noodles and mangoes every other night. That's what I have. It's my thing. I don't know how to explain it.
Is it labor intensive?
No, that's the best part. I throw the oven on and I have this, like, I get it from my grocery store. It's like the pre-made orange chicken. Throw it in, throw in some noodles in a frying pan, cut up my mango, and I'm good.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to throw in the whole, every time you eat it, you have to prepare it and cook it yourself because people will be like, I want these outlandish meals, but then, it's like, you got to cook it, right? Like you don't have a cook doing this meal for you. Who's inspired you most as a person and then as a musician?
That I know? Obviously the musicians would be the musicians I've labeled earlier, but as not people I know. As people I know, probably 3 people. 4. So I might as well do speed run real quick. Cam, my best friend and guitarist, is like I've realized every successful person needs a partner behind them, and Cam has become my partner. So I love him for that, and he's always given me friendship, and he's very inspiring there. Matt Good, from if you know First to Last, he's also a producer. He's become kind of like a role model, taking me under his wing, and is like he's so wise, like and helps me understand and navigate what's going on right now. As someone who's already been an emo band that's blown up, and he's super helpful, and he's part of the project now. We're doing songs together. He's great. Joey Barba was the producer who I started working with, who believed in me from the beginning. And he took a chance on me, and he was in he came from the same town as me, did an emo band that had success and then unfortunately fell apart. But I look up to him. And then last but not least, my lawyer, Eric German, is the kind of lawyer that I feel like every musician needs, who believes in me to the fucking end and would pick up a call anytime and really cares. So
I love that you threw your lawyer in there. Like, I love that.
Unreal. Dude, you got to meet this guy. If you ever get a chance to meet Eric German, this dude is one of a kind lawyer. Like, I don't know how to even describe him. He feels like I don't know. You got to meet this guy if you ever get a chance. He's one of a kind personality.
I've never heard anyone say that about a lawyer. I think that's the most.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. He's like that kind of, that is the difference right there. I've never said that about lawyers either. I have the whole prenup. I've dealt with lawyers. He is one of a kind.
Amazing. Hey, who is your favorite up and coming artist right now?
God, there's so many. Magnolia Park is those guys are fucking real. 408, fucking real dudes. I just went on a tour with all of them. We'd play baseball before our shows. It was great. I love those guys. Oh God, there's so many. No Offense, I'm excited to go on tour with. That's going to be great. I don't know. There's probably way more than anybody I didn't list. I'm really sorry, but there's lots of bands that are very cool that are on the upcoming right now that I think there's going to be a new scene wave very soon.
And upcoming tour, why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
About to tour US, No Offense. It's going to be exciting. We're playing Canada, first ever show in Canada. Some of the shows already sold out. I'm ready for some crazy shows. I think Canada is sold out. I got you on GL, don't worry. Dude, I think it's gonna be a crazy tour. It's like a voyage every time you leave, man. We always listen to Pirates of the Caribbean music while we're driving, or Lord of the Rings music. It's more like a quest. It feels more like a quest, you know?
So it's the quest of North America.
Yeah, the quest of North America. Europe this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
Which will be exciting.
And any new music coming?
Yes, end of this month, we have a song with a very big artist that I can't announce yet, but an artist I grew up listening to that, like, you know, I know, it's going to be crazy. And it's the ultimate, like, fuck you. It's a hardcore song. And
Hell
like,
yeah.
like the genre is hardcore, not pop hardcore.
Yeah.
There's
Is it
nothing
going to be
pop
really
about-
country? It's
No,
hardcore
yeah.
and it's a country song.
Yeah. No. This is nothing pop about the song. Not even an element. It's just a full hardcore song. Just as
So
like
you got to
a
market it
fuck you.
as, is this the catchiest and poppiest song you've ever
Yeah,
heard?
yeah,
And then go
exactly.
into...
Exactly.
Man, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for making some time and asking some great questions.
Thank you for listening to Our Space with Matt Batiste. If you enjoyed yourself, please support the show by subscribing and leaving a review. Review.